everyone. This is going to be a really quick video walkthrough of how to sew the Delphine Thong. So this is just the basic thong. I've cut it out and I've done a lace overlay, which I've shown how to do in a previous video. The construction of this is super easy and it's super quick. So I'm going to start with the front piece, which is right side up, and I'm going to take my back and put those right sides together, lining up this little tiny gusset seam. And then I've already serged along the straight edge of my gusset just to finish that edge. And I'm going to put it with the right side facing the wrong side of my thong back. And I'm going to stitch this little tiny seam right here. So I'm actually going to do the entire thing on my sewing machine, except for two small seams. I'm going to finish with my serger. There. So before I open that up, I'm just going to really quickly trim back each layer so that they're graduated, so each layer is slightly longer than the next. This is going to reduce bulk. And then, so here's my back. When I fold the gusset forward towards the front, it covers that little seam allowance. And at this point, you can baste that in place. I'm going to skip that step just to keep things quick. And we're already at the point where we can start putting on our elastic. So I'm using a fold over elastic, starting at just one of the side seam points on the inside of the garment or the wrong side of your fabric. Use a zigzag stitch to baste it on. So there's no seam allowance along the leg line of this pattern. So you want the fold line of your elastic to run alongside the cut edge of your fabric. So as you zigzag stitch this on, you're going to very gently pull on the elastic. So you'll need to be fairly precise around this really narrow area. So here you can see how the elastic has gently cinched in that edge, but I don't have any puckers or gathers. And at this point, I just go through and I really quickly and carefully trim back my fabric so that the edge just sits right beside my stitching line. This is what's going to help the fold over elastic fold nicely and evenly. So if you are a really precise sewer, you might not have to. So there we go. So do the exact same thing to the other side, applying the elastic along the inside of the garment. And then once you've done that to both sides, you can fold the elastic along the fold line, working on the front of the garment, and use a zigzag stitch to just top stitch that in place. So I've completed the fold over elastic around each of the leg lines, and now I can do my side seam. So all I'm going to do is just put them right sides together, and I'm going to line up my elastic, and I'm just going to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance to stitch this one side seam together. The most important thing is you just make sure that you've got a seamless join right here. So when you open up your seam, you want it to look like the elastic has been applied continuously. So there's my finished seam, and when I open it up, there's a nice even join here. So I'm just going to really quickly serge this seam and then do the waist edging. So I'm going to use fold over elastic for the waist as well, and I'm just like before, I'm working on the inside of my garment, and I'm starting from the open side seam using a zigzag stitch. So this is just like what we did on the leg line. Gently pulling as you go. I'm going to add a label to mine. So I just press my side seams to the back. So the most important thing with the fold over elastic is that you just keep your tension even. So just like before, trim back any excess fabric. You can also use another narrow like band elastic, a really stretchy band elastic or plush back elastic on this. All right, now that that's all been trimmed back, I'm going to fold the elastic along the fold line towards the front and zigzag stitch that in place. We are almost done. These come together really quickly. So the last thing that we need to do is this final side seam. So I just turn my garment inside out, and with the right sides together, line up your elastic edges, and then just stitch this small side seam, same as our first one, using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, making sure your elastic is lined up nicely so that it looks continuous when you're done. So you may want to pin, you may want to hand baste. I just kind of fidget it together as I go. That works for me. So at this point you can finish this raw edge with your serger or zigzag stitch, and I tend to just push my seam allowance towards the back and tack that down just to stop it from flipping out. But otherwise, that is it. That's our completed thong. So this is pretty easy, really quick to sew, but there's lots of different things that you can do with overlays and appliques and bows and different kinds of embellishments. I hope you found that helpful, and thanks for watching.